What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to O'Leary's Garden, where life is a garden. Here's Anarchy, Part 7. That's all very well, some say, and anarchy may be a perfect form of human society, but we don't want to take a leap in the dark. Tell us, therefore, in detail how your society will be organized. And there follows a whole series of questions which are very interesting if we were involved in studying the problems that will impose themselves on the liberated society, but which are useless or absurd, even ridiculous, if we are expected to provide definitive solutions. What methods will be used to teach children? How will production be organized? Will there still be large cities, or will the population be evenly distributed over the whole surface of the earth? And supposing all the inhabitants of Siberia should want to spend their winter in Nice, and if everyone were to want to eat a partridge and drink wine from the Chianti district, and who will do a miner's job or be a seaman? And who will empty the privies? And will sick people be treated at home or in a hospital? And who will establish the railway timetable? And what will be done if an engine driver has a stomach ache while a train is moving? And so on, to the point of assuming that we have all the knowledge and experience of the unknown future, and that in the name of anarchy we should prescribe for future generations at what time they must go to bed and on what days they must pare their corns. If indeed our readers expect a reply from us to these questions, or at least to those which are really serious and important, which is more than our personal opinion at this particular moment, it means that we have failed in our attempt to explain to them what anarchism is about. We are no more prophets than anyone else, and if we claim to be able to give an official solution to all the problems that will arise in the course of the daily life of a future society, then what we meant by the abolition of government would be curious, to say the least. For we would be declaring ourselves the government and would be prescribing, as do the religious legislators, a universal code for present and future generations. It is just as well that, not having the stake or prisons with which to impose our Bible, mankind will be free to laugh at us and at our pretensions with impunity. We are very concerned with all the problems of social life, both in the interest of science and because we reckon to see anarchy realized, and to take part as best we can in the organization of the new society. Therefore, we do have our solutions which, depending on the circumstances, appear to us either definitive or transitory. But for space considerations, we would say something on this here. But the fact that because today, with the evidence we have, we think in a certain way on a given problem, does not mean that this is how it must be dealt with in the future. Who can foresee the activities which will grow when mankind is freed from poverty and oppression? When there will no longer be either slaves or masters, and when the struggle between peoples and the hatred and bitterness that are engendered as a result will no longer be an essential part of existence. Who can predict the progress in science and in the means of production, of communication, and so on? What is important is that a society should be brought into being in which the exploitation and domination of man by man is not possible, in which everybody has free access to the means of life, of development, and of work, and that all can participate as they wish and know how. In the organization of social life in such a society, obviously all will be done to best satisfy the needs of everybody within the framework of existing knowledge and conditions, and all will change for the better with the growth of knowledge and the means. After all, a program which is concerned with the basis of social structure cannot do other than suggest a method, and it is the method which above all distinguishes between the parties and determines their historical importance. Apart from the method, they all talk of wanting the well-being of humanity, and many really do. The parties disappear, and with them all action organized and directed to a given end. Therefore, one must consider anarchy above all as a method. The methods from which the different non-anarchist parties expect, or say they do, the greatest good of one and all can be reduced to two: the authoritarian and the so-called liberal. The former entrusts to a few the management of The former entrusts to a few the management of social life and leads to the exploitation and oppression of the masses by the few. The latter relies on free individual enterprise and proclaims, if not the abolition, at least the reduction of governmental functions to an absolute minimum. But because it respects private property and is entirely based on the principle of each for himself and therefore of competition between men, the liberty it espouses is for the strong and for the property owners to oppress and exploit the weak. Those who have nothing, and far from producing harmony, tends to increase even more the gap between the rich and the poor, and it leads to exploitation and domination, in other words, to authority. The second method, that is liberalism, is in theory a kind of anarchy without socialism, and therefore is simply a lie, for freedom is not possible without equality, and real anarchy cannot exist without solidarity, without socialism. The criticism liberals direct at government consists only of wanting to deprive it of some of its functions and to call on the capitalists to fight it out amongst themselves, but it cannot attack the repressive functions which are of its essence, for without the gendarme the property owner could not exist. Indeed, the government's powers of repression must perforce increase as free competition results in more discord and inequality. Anarchists offer a new method, that is free initiative of all, free compact when private property having been abolished by revolutionary action, everybody has been put in a situation of equality to the spouse of social wealth. This method, by not allowing access to the reconstitution of private property, must lead, by a free association, to the complete victory of the principle of solidarity. Viewed in this way, one sees how all the problems that are advanced in order to counter anarchist ideas are instead an argument in their favor, because only anarchy points the way along which they can find, by trial and error, that solution which best satisfies the dictates of science as well as the needs and wishes of everybody. How will children be educated? We don't know. So what will happen? Parents, pedagogues, and all who are concerned with the future of the young generation will come together, will discuss, will agree or divide according to the views they hold, and will put into practice the methods which they think are best. And with practice, that method which in fact is the best will in the end be adopted. And similarly with all problems which present themselves. It follows from what we have said so far that anarchy, as understood by the anarchists and as only they can interpret it, is based on socialism. Indeed, were it not for those schools of socialism which artificially divide the natural unity of the social question and only consider some aspects out of context, and were it not for the misunderstandings with which they seek to tangle the path to the social revolution, we could say straight out that anarchy is synonymous with socialism, for both stand for the abolition of the domination and exploitation of man by man, whether they are exercised at bayonet point or by a monopoly of the means of life. Anarchy, in common with socialism, has its basis, its point of departure, its essential environment, equality of conditions. Its beacon is solidarity, and freedom is its method. It is not perfection. It is not the absolute ideal which, like the horizon, recedes as fast as we approach it, but it is the way open to all progress and all improvements for the benefit of everybody. Well, folks, that wraps up part 7 of this Anarchy series by Ericco Malatesta. If you like these videos and you like O'Leary's Garden, please help support us by offering a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.